Prigozhin is and has been a central figure in the Putin campaign, and I find it extraordinary that the outburst yesterday, which was a series of videos which are sort of edited together, and these videos were put out over the course of the day, and he said that he didn't want to disturb the parade, so some of the videos were put out after the parade, and they get increasingly more and more angry. And one of them, he's wearing his glasses. And all of this was put out on Telegram under the various Telegram sites that PCM Wagner operates. This is a propaganda machine, which is very unusual because often the Wagner propaganda contradicts or subverts the official Russian propaganda machine, and it abandons any attempt to use Russian flags and Russian tropes. It's got its own flags, it's got its own mercenary identity. And yesterday was no surprise from that point of view. Not a single photo of either parade or Putin. Instead, lots of images of troops flying Wagner flags in various patriotic war locations, and most importantly, the videos of Prigozhin himself. Now, Prigozhin seems to have had carte blanche to do whatever he wants during this war. Prigozhin, Putin's chef. But recently, that seems to have been abandoned. And so since the beginning of the year, he's been complaining about ammunition shortages, getting more and more irritated with the military brass in Moscow. And his dissatisfaction has grown and grown and grown, from nagging resentment to foul-mouthed emotional outbursts about specific generals. And yesterday was extraordinary because yesterday it touched on Putin himself. Now, if you look at the video, it doesn't look too much unlike any of the other rants that he's done. He's done a rant today, by the way. It starts off with the stuff about there being a poster of a boy from 1945 who might have been up to doing the job, and then it goes on to somebody who's wasting the country. It's an elliptical phrase, but he points to somebody in authority who is now wasting the country. And then later on, in another video, all of these things are all edited together in one sort of best bits of Prigozhin. He says that the Supremes, has got the message about ammunition shortages. So is that he's now understood and he's now providing the ammunition because we're told that the ammunition is coming, it hasn't arrived yet? Or is it that Prigozhin now knows Putin has heard, but still hasn't done anything? So Putin says that if he got the response he wanted, he wouldn't make any more videos, but clearly he didn't get the response he wanted. So what we've got is a one-sided narrative in this video rant. We've got this very angry response to silence. It's like somebody who keeps making telephone. I'm going to keep calling. I'm going to keep calling. Are you there? Are you there? And this is Prigozhin getting more and more incensed by the person on the other end saying, "Your call is important to us. Please wait." I'm getting more and more angry. And there is bad language. There's a certain amount of bad language, but the really interesting stuff is when he starts talking about grandpa or granddad. And we know that we know that Prigozhin interprets the assassination attempt on Prilepin the other day and the assassination of Tatarsky the other week as messages for him. I'm sure both Tatarsky and Prilepin were very flattered to be the postman in each case. But Prigozhin's rhetoric is unique in Russia. the system that Prigozhin operates in, the system created by Putin over the last 20 years, is inflexible and intolerant of any form of criticism, particularly when it comes from inside and particularly when it's about the authority himself. Now I sound like Philip Pullman. The authority. And any challenge to the president's authority results in serious harm. All you have to think of is Sergei Furgal, the fellow out in the East, who still remains in jail after becoming too popular in 2020. And his arrest triggered uprisings and resentment, but that was a risk that the Kremlin was prepared to take because it's not prepared to have anybody more powerful than Putin. That was perhaps Navalny's mistake. So the whole system around Putin operates on the understanding that everybody's corrupt and everybody is in it for the take. And so as long as everybody is distributing the wealth, the stolen wealth, everybody hides each other's offences. Now, what's happened with Prigozhin is he's been given a lot more leeway, and people closer to Prigozhin have been seriously attacked. So you've got the two journalists, I use the term loosely. Then you've got Mikhail Mizintsev, the Deputy Minister of Defense, close ally of Prigozhin, who was relieved of duty. And he immediately joined the Wagner Brigade. Terribly unusual. Normally what happens when the military falls foul of the system, they're simply transferred to another job. Anyway, let's get on with the video, because the video is, he says, happy, there's a, he's saying nothing seems to have arrived in terms of ammunition, and happy granddad thinks that's okay. God give everybody strength. The sentence is incredibly convoluted in terms of its Russian grammar, and Prigozhin fails to say there who the granddad is. In fact, he doesn't mention any names at all in the video yesterday. There's no ranting about Gerasimov or Shogun. It's all anonymous. But who is this granddad? It's impossible to think that it's not Mr. Putin. And then he goes on at the end to call this granddad an arse. That is simply astonishing. Simply astonishing. You know, it's almost unthinkable that anybody could do that in any other country, but to do it in Russia particularly is extraordinary. Now, the problem is, what does it mean? Number one, has Prigozhin decided that he has a death wish and wants to jump out of a top floor window, or find himself in a car crash, in a bomb, in a car, or both arranged by the FSB, courtesy of the FSB, or is this part of an elaborate theatrical ruse to lure the Ukrainian army up to Bakhmut in the thought that Bakhmut is about to fall? Because we know that we know that the Russian troops who were stationed in Bakhmut deserted only the other day, and we also know that there was a Prigozhin says at the beginning of his thing that that desertion, according to Putin, or according to the top level authority that sent the letter, desertion will be looked upon as treachery and treason. But the Russian brigade that was stationed in Bakhmut retreated, left, along with another brigade of mercenaries funded by Gazprom. And Prigozhin is sarcastic and contemptuous of both. But is this a message? Is this a message that there's a hole in the Russian line that can be exploited? come here and there's a trap waiting. I think it is improbable that Prigozhin can even survive the night, having made these statements. My own thought is that this is an elaborate ruse, a joke, a Venus spas, a practical joke engineered by Putin himself. And Mr. Prigozhin, Kadyrov, Shoigu, Gerasimov are all in on it. And it's just banter. And they're seeing how rude they can be about each other to try and lure Ukraine into a false sense of security that the Russian side is collapsing. Either that, or the Russian side really is collapsing. This is the most remarkable piece of invective, the most remarkable rant that we have ever heard. And I am simply staggered that nothing has yet appeared in the press. Simply staggered. I put out a translation as best I could of this thing last night, and still nothing has appeared. Nothing has appeared. And I'm beginning to think, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. But if I were in Russia and I were to call Mr. Putin some of these names, I don't think I would expect to even get out of the door of my university.